Commander Velthak stood on the bridge of his massive warship, watching the blue and green planet grow larger on his view screen. His 6 eyes focused on the data streams flowing across multiple displays. This was his 18th conquest for the Zephyrian Empire, and he expected it to be as straightforward as all the others. Status report, Lieutenant Mordak, he commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never known defeat. His aide, a younger Zephyrian with gleaming purple armor, consulted his scanner. Initial biological scans are complete, Commander. The dominant species calls themselves humans. They appear to be remarkably unremarkable. Velthak's mandibles twitched with interest. Explain. No natural armor plating like the Krextani. No acid sacs like the Vorthak. No enhanced muscle density like the Gromax warriors we faced on Kepler 442b. They're soft, sir. Fragile. Their bones break easily, their skin tears from minor impacts, and they have no natural weapons. The commander nodded approvingly. The Empire's strategy was built on efficiency. Why waste resources on prolonged campaigns when most species surrendered after a simple demonstration of superior firepower? These humans would likely capitulate within hours, maybe minutes. Their technology level? Velthak asked, already knowing the answer would be primitive. Basic space flight achieved only recently. Nuclear weapons, but nothing that could threaten our shields. Their most advanced aircraft move at speeds we consider leisurely. Ground vehicles are slow and cumbersome. Perfect. Velthak had seen this pattern dozens of times. A young species, barely beyond their home world, suddenly faced with the reality that they were not alone in the universe. The shock alone usually did half the work. Begin descent protocol. Standard intimidation formation. I want them to see exactly what they are facing. The Zephyrian fleet moved with practiced precision. 7 massive ships, each the size of a small city, descended through Earth's atmosphere. Their hulls gleamed with energy shields that made the air itself shimmer. Weapons ports along their sides glowed with barely contained power. On the surface, Lieutenant Colonel Kim Dae-ho stood in the command center of Osan Air Base, South Korea. Around him, dozens of personnel monitored screens showing the alien approach. The ships were impressive, he had to admit. Larger than anything humanity had ever built. Sir, called out Sergeant Park Minitsu from his communication station. We're receiving transmissions from similar command centers worldwide. The aliens are landing simultaneously on every continent. Kim watched through the base's external cameras as one of the ships touched down just outside the perimeter. The ground shook from its massive weight. A ramp descended, and figures emerged. The Zephyrians were tall, nearly 3 meters high, encased in armor that looked like it could stop anything Earth's military could throw at it. They moved with the confidence of conquerors, each step deliberate and measured. Energy weapons hummed at their sides, occasionally firing harmless demonstration shots that turned nearby rocks into glass. The lead figure approached the base's main gate. When it spoke, its words came through speakers built into its helmet, translated into perfect Korean. I am Commander Velthak of the Zephyrian Empire. By the authority granted to me by the High Council of Conquered Worlds, I claim this planet and all its inhabitants for the Empire. You will surrender your military forces immediately and prepare your population for integration into our civilization. Kim stepped outside to face the alien commander. Up close, Velthak was even more intimidating. His armor seemed to be made of some unknown metal that absorbed light. 6 eyes, arranged in pairs, studied Kim with what might have been amusement. You are this facility's leader? Velthak asked. Lieutenant Colonel Kim Dae-ho, Republic of Korea Air Force. Good. Order your forces to lay down their weapons. Resistance is futile and will only result in unnecessary casualties. Kim looked past Velthak at the other Zephyrians. There were maybe 30 of them, all heavily armed and armored. Impressive, certainly. But something about the way they moved caught his attention. Their steps were heavy, deliberate, but not because of confidence. It was because of weight. That armor, those weapons, they were incredibly heavy. Sir, Park whispered through Kim's earpiece, Command is asking for your assessment. Similar standoffs are happening at bases worldwide. Everyone's waiting for your call. Kim studied the aliens more carefully. Their equipment was designed for overwhelming force, quick decisive victories. Everything about them screamed shock and/or tactics. But in all his years of military service, Kim had learned that every strategy had a weakness. Sergeant Park, he said quietly, contact Seoul Marathon Association, the National Athletics Federation, and the Special Forces Endurance Training Units. Tell them we might need their expertise. Park's voice crackled back, confused. Sir? The Marathon Association. Trust me. Also, get me a direct line to every military base on the planet. I think I know how to beat these guys. Velthak's translator picked up Kim's response. We respectfully decline your offer of surrender. The commander's mandibles clicked in what his species considered laughter. They always said that initially. Within a few hours, after seeing demonstrations of Zephyrian firepower, they always changed their minds. You misunderstand your situation, human. We have conquered 17 worlds. We have never known defeat. Your weapons cannot harm us, your technology cannot match us. Surrender now, and your people will be treated fairly under Empire rule. Kim smiled, an expression that didn't translate well to Zephyrian understanding. Commander, I think you're the one who misunderstands the situation. You see, you've made one critical error in your assessment of humanity. And what would that be? You assumed we'd fight you the way everyone else has. The first energy blast from Zephyrian weapons lit up the morning sky over Seoul like artificial lightning. Commander Velthak expected to see humans scatter in terror, running for shelter as every other species had done when faced with superior firepower. Instead, something unexpected happened. The humans did start running. But they ran toward the aliens, not away from them. Captain Lee Hyun-woo felt his heart settle into the familiar rhythm he knew so well from countless marathons. Behind him, Corporals Cho Sung-minute and Song Mi-young matched his pace perfectly, their breathing controlled and steady. They had trained for this their entire adult lives, though they never imagined it would be against alien invaders. Contact ahead, Lee spoke into his radio, his voice calm despite running at full speed through the city streets. Zephyrian squad moving west toward the Han River. They're about 2 kilometers ahead. Song checked her GPS tracker without breaking stride. Sir, they're moving slower than expected. Much slower. Lee smiled grimly. The aliens' armor might stop bullets, but it was also incredibly heavy. Every step they took required enormous effort, while the humans moved like water flowing downhill, efficient and unstoppable. 3 hours into the chase, the pattern became clear. The Zephyrians would stop, set up defensive positions, fire a few warning shots, then realize the humans weren't stopping. They would pack up and retreat again, always trying to maintain distance from the pursuing forces. Team Beta, this is Alpha, Lee radioed to the parallel unit running along Gangnam Avenue. Target group is turning south. Move to intercept at Banpo Bridge. Copy that, Alpha. We have visual on secondary group. They dropped some equipment about a kilometer back. Across the globe, similar scenes played out with mathematical precision. In the Amazon rainforest, Sergeant Jun Tai-sik led his team through dense vegetation that would have stopped most military units cold. The Zephyrians ahead of them crashed through the jungle like bulldozers, leaving a trail of broken branches and discarded gear that was easy to follow. Jun's team moved differently. They flowed around obstacles, found paths where none seemed to exist, maintained their pace regardless of terrain. When the aliens tried to use the thick jungle to slow their pursuers, they discovered that humans had been persistent hunting in forests for thousands of years. They're getting tired, reported Private First Class Pak Ji-hoon, barely breathing hard despite running for 4 straight hours. Look at their tracks. The spacing is getting irregular. Jun nodded, studying the deep gouges the heavy alien boots left in the soft earth. The Zephyrians were struggling. Their advanced technology was becoming a liability in extended pursuit. In the Sahara Desert, Lieutenant Nam So-young led her team across sand dunes that shifted with each step. The alien squad they were following had started the day with 15 members. Now there were only 10, the others having collapsed from heat exhaustion despite their environmental suits. Sir, called out Sergeant Kim Young-ho, running beside her with the easy stride of someone who had completed the Marathon des Sables 3 times. They're stopping again. Nam looked ahead to where the Zephyrian group had halted on a ridge. Even from a distance, she could see them swaying with exhaustion. Their armor, designed for short engagements, was cooking them alive in the desert heat. Maintain distance but keep pressure on them, Nam ordered. Don't let them rest. On the command ship orbiting Earth, Commander Velthak stared at his tactical display in growing bewilderment. Red dots representing his ground forces moved across the planet's surface in erratic patterns, always pursued by steady blue dots that never seemed to slow down or stop. Lieutenant Mordak, explain to me what I'm seeing, Velthak demanded, his voice tight with confusion. His aide consulted multiple data streams, his expression troubled. Sir, our ground forces report continuous pursuit by human units. The humans are not engaging in direct combat. They're just following. Following? For how long? The longest pursuit has been ongoing for 7 hours, sir. Our forces report that the humans show no signs of fatigue. They maintain consistent speed regardless of terrain. Velthax studied the reports flowing in from across the planet. His soldiers, the elite forces of the Zephyrian Empire, were being worn down by creatures that simply refused to stop moving. What about their technology? Are they using vehicles? No, sir. They're on foot. All of them. They appear to be using some form of relay system, with fresh teams taking over when others tire, but sir. Mordak paused, his voice uncertain. Many of the teams haven't needed replacement. The same humans have been running for hours. In the Australian outback, Corporal 1J Minute crested a rocky hill and spotted the Zephyrian patrol in the valley below. They had shed their heavy weapons and most of their equipment, leaving a trail of advanced alien technology scattered behind them like breadcrumbs. Base, this is Pursuit Team 7, one reported. Targets have abandoned their heavy gear. They're moving much slower now. I count 4 aliens still mobile, 2 appear to be supported by the others. The response crackled through his earpiece. Maintain pursuit, Team 7. Do not engage directly. Just keep them moving. One smiled and adjusted his pace slightly. In his civilian life, he was an ultramarathon runner who had completed the Badwater 135 5 times. Running across the Australian desert in pursuit of exhausted aliens was almost relaxing compared to Death Valley in summer. The psychological impact on the Zephyrian forces was devastating. They had conquered 17 worlds through shock and awe, overwhelming their enemies with superior firepower and technology. But how do you fight an enemy that won't fight back, that just keeps coming no matter what you do to them? Sir, a panicked voice crackled through Velthak's communication system. This is Squad Leader Thex now. The humans, they're still behind us. It's been 12 hours. We can't shake them. They just keep running. Private First Class on Sujin checked her watch as she reached the rocky ridge overlooking the valley. 18 hours. The alien patrol below had been running from her team for 18 straight hours through the Rocky Mountains, and they were finally starting to break. Her breath came out in small white puffs in the thin mountain air, but her heart rate was steady. Beside her, Corporal Minute Dornwook studied the aliens through his binoculars, his own breathing calm and controlled. They're sitting down again, Minute observed. That's the 4th rest stop since sunrise. Below them, the Zephyrian patrol huddled together near a cluster of pine trees. Even from this distance, one could see their exhaustion in the way they slumped against their equipment. What had started as an orderly retreat had become something closer to a desperate flight. Echo Base, this is Team 12, On spoke into her radio. We have visual on target group. They've stopped for another extended rest. Requesting fresh pursuit team for handoff. The response came immediately. Team 12, this is Echo Base. Team 15 is moving to your position. ETA 40 minutes. Maintain visual contact but do not close distance. On smiled. The strategy had developed naturally over the past 3 days. When one human team grew tired, another would take over the chase. But increasingly, the teams weren't getting tired at all. The aliens were stopping to rest much more often than their human pursuers. In Seoul, Captain Ryu Ji-hoon coordinated the European pursuit operations from a mobile command center that had been tracking alien movements across the continent. His screens showed a pattern that would have seemed impossible just days earlier. Team 7, status report, he called into his headset. Still in pursuit, sir, came the response from somewhere in the German Alps. Target group covered approximately 40 kilometers today. We estimate we've covered 80. Ryu studied the display showing red dots scattered across Europe. Each dot represented a Zephyrian unit in retreat, always followed by steady blue dots representing human pursuit teams. The pattern was the same everywhere. The aliens would run for a few hours, stop to rest, run again, stop again. Meanwhile, the human teams maintained steady pressure, never letting their quarry rest for long. Team 11, what's your situation? Ryu asked another unit. Contact group abandoned most of their heavy weapons about 6 hours ago, sir. Specialist Hong Kyung-soo estimates they're moving at less than half their original speed. The reports were consistent across all theaters. The Zephyrian forces, designed for quick decisive battles, were being systematically worn down by an enemy that simply refused to stop pursuing them. In the Canadian wilderness, Sergeant Lee Haijin followed alien tracks through dense forest. Her team had been tracking the same group for 36 hours, and the trail was getting easier to follow. The Zephyrians were no longer trying to hide their passage. They were too exhausted for stealth. Look at this, called out Private Park Chan-woo, pointing to a piece of alien equipment half buried in fallen leaves. "They're dropping gear every few kilometers now." Lee examined the device. It looked like some kind of advanced scanner, probably worth more than her annual salary. But to the fleeing aliens, it was just extra weight slowing them down. "Sir," Park continued, studying the tracks, "their formation is breaking down. Look how spread out the footprints are. They're not maintaining unit cohesion anymore." Lee nodded. She had seen the same pattern in her civilian life as an ultramarathon race director. Runners would start in tight groups, but exhaustion would eventually spread them out as individuals reached their breaking points at different times. On the orbital command ship, Commander Velthak stared at tactical reports that painted an impossible picture. His elite forces, trained warriors who had conquered 17 worlds, were being defeated by creatures who appeared to have no advanced technology whatsoever. "Explain this to me," he demanded, gesturing at the display showing his scattered forces. "How are primitives overwhelming our superior forces?" Lieutenant Mordak consulted his datapad, his voice strained with disbelief. "Sir, our xenobiology team has completed their analysis of human physiology. The results are disturbing." "Speak plainly, Lieutenant." "These humans evolved as what their scientists call persistence hunters, sir. Their entire body structure is designed for extended running. Their cooling system is more efficient than ours. Their joints and muscles are built for sustained movement. Their cardiovascular system can operate at high efficiency for days without rest." Velthak felt his mandibles click nervously. "You're saying they're naturally designed for this?" "Yes, sir. While we evolved for strength and protection, they evolved for endurance. On their world, they would chase prey animals until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. Then they would simply walk up and kill them." The commander studied the reports flowing in from the surface. Casualties not from weapons fire, but from exhaustion. Soldiers surrendering because they couldn't run anymore. Entire units abandoning equipment because it was too heavy to carry while fleeing. "Sir," Mordak continued, his voice barely steady, "there are reports of human teams that have been running continuously for over 60 hours. Our soldiers are collapsing after 12. In the Australian outback, Corporal 1J Minute maintained his steady pace across red sand and scrubland. The Zephyrian patrol he was following had been reduced from 12 members to 6. The others had simply collapsed and been left behind by their retreating comrades. "Base, this is Team 9, one reported without breaking stride. Target group is down to 6 members. They're moving in single file now, the stronger ones supporting the weaker ones." The response crackled through his earpiece. "Copy, Team 9. Medical teams are collecting the collapsed aliens. They're not hostile anymore, just exhausted." One smiled grimly. In his civilian life, he had run across this same desert many times, competing in ultramarathons that would have killed most people. To him, chasing exhausted aliens across familiar terrain was almost relaxing. The psychological impact on the Zephyrian forces was complete. They had faced the impossible, an enemy that never got tired, never gave up, never stopped coming. Sergeant 1 Mi Kyung maintained her steady jogging pace across the red dirt of the Australian outback. The sun beat down mercilessly, but her breathing remained controlled and even. 12 hours earlier, she had started following a Zephyrian patrol of 15 soldiers. Now only 6 remained mobile, and they were barely moving. The trail behind the aliens told a story of complete breakdown. Advanced energy weapons lay scattered in the dust, abandoned when they became too heavy to carry. Pieces of armor had been discarded, creating a line of expensive alien technology stretching for kilometers across the desert. "Base, this is Pursuit Team 12, one spoke into her radio without slowing her pace. Target group has stopped completely. I count 2 aliens collapsed on the ground, for sitting in whatever shade they can find." Through her binoculars, she could see the Zephyrian soldiers clearly. They sat with their heads in their hands, their once proud armor now dusty and dented. Some had removed their helmets, revealing faces that looked broken and defeated. "Team 12, what's their current status?" came the reply from command. "They're not moving, sir. They're just waiting. I think they know we're here, but they don't seem to care anymore." This scene was repeating itself across every continent. The mighty Zephyrian Empire, which had conquered 17 worlds through overwhelming force, was being systematically destroyed by humans who simply refused to stop running. Captain Bae Song-ho sat in his mobile command center outside Tokyo, studying psychological reports that painted a disturbing picture of alien mental breakdown. His intelligence team had been interviewing captured Zephyrians, and the results were both fascinating and terrifying. Their entire military culture is based on quick victories, he explained to his superior through a secure satellite link. They arrive, demonstrate superior firepower, accept surrender, and move on. The longest campaign in their history lasted 3 weeks. On his screens, BAE watched dozens of red dots representing alien forces across Asia. Most had stopped moving entirely. The blue dots representing human pursuit teams continued their steady approach, never slowing, never stopping. What happens when they can't achieve quick victory? His superior asked. Complete psychological collapse. They literally don't know how to handle sustained conflict. Their soldiers are trained for shock and awe, not endurance. When faced with an enemy that won't stop pursuing them, they break down mentally. In the Sahara Desert, Lieutenant Sultan of the Zephyrian 47th Assault Battalion stared at the dust cloud on the horizon. It had been there for 4 days, never getting closer but never disappearing either. The humans were still following, as they had been since the retreat began. Sultan's unit had started with 20 soldiers. Now only 8 remained conscious. The others had collapsed from heat exhaustion, dehydration, or simple mental fatigue. Their advanced environmental suits, designed for short engagements, had failed under the stress of continuous operation. Sir, gasped Private Kexton, the youngest member of his squad, I can't run anymore. My legs won't work. Sultan looked at his remaining soldiers. They sat in whatever small shade they could find, their eyes hollow and defeated. Through his communication system, he could hear similar reports from units across the planet. Unit 7, this is Unit 12. We're surrendering. The humans, they're still coming. Unit 3 to command. We've been running for 6 days. Half my soldiers have collapsed. Request immediate extraction. Command, this is Unit 25. The humans never stop. They never get tired. We can't fight them anymore. Sultan made his decision. All units, this is Lieutenant Sultan. I am ordering general surrender. Remove your weapons and sit down. When the humans arrive, do not resist. The relief in his soldiers' voices was immediate. They dropped their remaining equipment and simply sat in the sand, too exhausted to care what happened next. On the orbital command ship, Commander Velthak received transmission after transmission from his ground forces. Each report was worse than the last. His elite soldiers, the pride of the Zephyrian military, were surrendering without firing a shot. Sir, Lieutenant Mordak reported, his voice shaking, we have confirmation of mass surrenders on all 6 continents. Ground forces are abandoning their positions and waiting for human forces to collect them. Velthak stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Red dots representing his forces had stopped moving entirely. They just sat there while blue dots approached steadily from all directions. How many casualties from enemy fire? He asked. None, sir. All casualties are from exhaustion, dehydration, and what our medical teams are calling pursuit fatigue syndrome. Velthak felt something he had never experienced in his military career, complete helplessness. His forces weren't being defeated by superior weapons or tactics. They were being broken by creatures that simply wouldn't give up. With trembling hands, he opened a priority channel to Zephyrian High Command. Command, this is Commander Velthak. I am requesting immediate withdrawal of all ground forces from the human world. Explain yourself, Commander, came the stern reply. Your reports make no sense. How can primitives defeat our superior forces? Velthak looked at his screens showing hundreds of his soldiers sitting motionless across Earth's surface, waiting to be captured by humans who had never stopped running. Sir, the humans aren't warriors in any sense we understand. They are hunters. Persistence hunters. They don't fight you, they just follow you until you collapse from exhaustion. And they never, ever stop. The silence from high command stretched for long moments before a new voice came through, higher ranking and more concerned. Commander, are you saying that these humans defeated your forces without engaging in direct combat? Yes, sir. They ran us to death. Our soldiers are surrendering rather than face another day of being chased by creatures that never get tired. The psychological impact was spreading beyond Earth. Word was already reaching other Zephyrian units throughout the galaxy. The humans had done something no other species had ever accomplished. They had broken the Zephyrian Empire's military confidence without firing a shot. Ambassador Crintal of the Hegemony stood before the massive circular chamber of the Galactic Council, his scaled hands trembling slightly as he prepared to address the assembled representatives of 47 different worlds. The chamber, carved from a single asteroid and decorated with the finest art from across the galaxy, had never been so quiet. Honored members, Crintal began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics, "I bring disturbing news about the species known as humans from the Terra system." A ripple of whispers spread through the gathered aliens. The Zephyrian retreat from Earth had become legendary throughout the galaxy, though many still didn't believe the reports. "Our intelligence networks have completed their investigation of the Zephyrian campaign. The humans have been classified as a Class Alpha threat." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Class Alpha threats were reserved for species that could destroy entire planets. The Korthak Empire held that classification for their planet-cracking weapons. The Void Collective earned it for their ability to consume star systems. But humans? They barely had space flight. Elder Vextan of the Korthanian Empire, his forearms crossed in disbelief, spoke first. "Ambassador, surely there's been an error. These humans have primitive technology. Their fastest ships move slower than our cargo vessels." "That's correct, Honored Elder," Krintal replied. "This classification is not based on their technology or military weapons. It's based on their psychological warfare capabilities." He activated the holographic display in the center of the chamber. Three-dimensional images appeared, showing scenes from Earth during the Zephyrian retreat. The assembled aliens watched in fascination as human soldiers moved across various terrains. "These are actual recordings provided by the Zephyrian Command," Krintal explained. "Here we see Sergeant Kim Hyojin leading her pursuit team across mountain terrain. Note that she maintains the same steady pace for over 16 consecutive hours." The hologram shifted to show another scene. Corporal Pak Subin coordinating multiple pursuit teams across 3 different time zones simultaneously. She ran for 48 hours with only brief rest periods. More images followed. Captain Yoon Sung-ho moving through dense jungle, never slowing despite obstacles that would stop most species. Lieutenant Han Minute Jung crossing desert terrain that had defeated an entire Zephyrian battalion. "They call it persistence hunting," Krintal continued. "This hunting method evolved on their world millions of years ago. Humans would select a prey animal and chase it continuously until it collapsed from exhaustion. Then they would simply walk up and kill it." Counselor Threx of the Machine Worlds leaned forward, his mechanical voice buzzing with interest. "How is this possible? Do they use enhancement drugs? Cybernetic implants?" "No technological enhancement whatsoever," Krintal answered. "This is their natural biology. Human bodies are designed for continuous movement over vast distances. Their cooling system is more efficient than any species we've encountered. Their joints and muscles can operate at peak performance for days without rest." The holographic display changed again, showing footage that made several council members recoil in horror. Zephyrian soldiers, the elite forces that had conquered 17 worlds, were shown abandoning their weapons and armor, collapsing from exhaustion, and ultimately surrendering without fighting. "The psychological impact is devastating," Krintal explained. "Imagine facing an enemy that never gets tired, never gives up, never stops pursuing you. No matter how fast you run, how well you hide, or how far you travel, they will find you and continue the chase." Elder Vextan shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Surely our superior technology would allow us to escape." The Zephyrians thought the same thing, Honored Elder. Their advanced armor, designed to make them nearly invincible in battle, became a burden during extended pursuit. Their energy weapons, powerful enough to level buildings, were useless against enemies who wouldn't stand still long enough to fight. The ambassador activated another section of footage showing the final stages of the Zephyrian retreat. Alien soldiers sat motionless in various locations across Earth, too exhausted to move, simply waiting for human forces to collect them. "The Terran Defense Force has issued an official statement," Krintal read from his datapad. Quote, "Any hostile force that attempts to invade Earth will be hunted continuously until they surrender or leave our world. We do not negotiate with invaders. We do not accept partial victories. We will pursue any threat until it is eliminated. This is what we call the long hunt." End quote. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Several ambassadors were already calculating how this might affect their own military strategies. "In the 6 months since the Zephyrian retreat," Krintal continued, "we have observed significant changes in galactic behavior patterns. Pirate activities near human space routes have dropped to 0. Slave trading ships now add weeks to their journeys to avoid the Terra system entirely." Councillor Zeth of the warrior clan stood up, his massive frame towering over the other delegates. "This is ridiculous. They are primitives. A single battle cruiser could destroy their entire planet." "That's true," Krintal agreed. "But only from orbit. No military force in the galaxy is willing to engage humans on the ground. The psychological trauma experienced by Zephyrian survivors has been studied by our best military psychologists. Many require ongoing treatment for what they call pursuit anxiety syndrome. The display showed one final image, Captain Lee Ji-woo finishing her morning run through the streets of Seoul, checking her communication device for any signs of hostile alien activity. The readout showed green across all global defense sectors. Military academies throughout the galaxy are now teaching courses on Terran persistence doctrine, Crintal concluded. The consensus among military strategists is clear: avoid ground engagement with humans at all costs. The galaxy had learned a simple but terrifying lesson. Some species had evolved to be faster, stronger, or more technologically advanced. But humans had evolved to be hunters who never gave up. And in a universe full of potential prey, that made them the most dangerous predators of all.